안녕하세요. 태솔의 주임교수 염경숙입니다. 국제적인 영어교사 전문 교육기관인 우리 태솔 설명회에 와주신 여러분 모두를 환영합니다. 자, 향후 우리 영어교육계는 어떻게 변할까요? 포스트 코로나 시대의 교육계의 전망에 대해서는 우리 모두가 또 공통적으로 또 경험하고 그리고 또 예측하고 있습니다. 숙명여대를 비롯해서 여러 대학에서 이미 메타버스의 게더타운 앱 등을 이용해서 입학식, 졸업식 각종 이벤트를 실시간으로 아주 재미있게 꾸며가고 있습니다. 현장감, 몰입감, 그리고 소속감을 증대시키는 거죠. 그러나 동시에 이런 현상을 두고 우리의 휴먼네스의 그 중요성에 대해서 미래학자나 그 교육학자들이 이미 우려를 표명하기 시작했습니다. 내가 아닌 내 아바타가 내 대신 이렇게 여러 가지 존재의 가치를 높이고 있으며, 또 알고리즘 아이덴티티라는 그런 아이덴티티에 저희가 자칫 끌려다닐 수도 있고, 자, 이런 그 미래에 대해서 어떻게 하면 휴먼네스를 더 우리가 확장시킬 수가 있는 건가? 그러니까 현실 속에서의 인간관계, 경험을 어떻게 하면 확장시키고 그 사회적 책무를 증대시킬 수 있는 것인가? 이게 이제 또 미래 하이테크 시대의 교육의 일종의 목표라고 할 수 있겠죠. 자, 그렇다고 하면 영어교육계는 여러분이 잘 아시다시피 그 AI 번역기, 또 여러 가지 앱이 증대해서 또 영어 교육의 의존도가 자칫 좀 낮아질 수는 있겠죠. 그러나 동시에 우리가 국제 무대에서 나만의 목소리로 내가 가진 아이디어를 잘 피력해낼 수 있는 그런 국제 인재를 양성한다라는 것은 또 다른 차원에서의 또 우리들의 교육의 의무인 것입니다. 오히려 이런 인재를 키워내는 데는 영어 교육의 필요성이 예전보다 더 많아질 수도 있습니다. 자, 이 시점에서 여러분은 왜 숙명태솔 설명회에 오늘 이렇게 오신 건가요? 우리의 인생에서 또 여러분이 필요로 하는 어느 순간 또 불확실한 미래를 향해 크게 도전장을 내민 것이라고 생각이 듭니다. 아마 저희들과 또 생활하시면서 또 향후 몇 년 후 그 미래가 확실히 보이기 시작할 텐데요. 일단 잘 오셨습니다. 저희 숙명태솔이 그 20여 년간 항시 믿고 있는 슬로건은 태솔 비욘드라는 것입니다. 그러니까 일단 우리 자신이 가지고 있는 한계를 넘어서, 그리고 우리 숙명태솔이라는 시스템이 가지고 있는 또 한계를 넘어서, 또 지리적 한계를 넘어 문화적인 경계선을 넘어서 국제 무대에서의 저희들 이미지를 자꾸 높이기 위해서 저희가 쓰고 있는 슬로건입니다. 그래서 태솔 비욘드라고 하는 이 현재 슬로건에서 저희가 한 발자국 더 나가야 되는 것은, 물론 하이테크 시대에 우리 정말 국제적 인재를 양성할 수 있는 교사 그 양성이 항시 필요한 것이고요. 동시에 English in Multiculturalism, English in Multilingualism, 바로 그런 그 교육 시스템이 우리 현장에 잘 구축할 수 있도록, 또 향후 또 새로운 미래를 향해서 여러분과 같이 노력해 나가야 되겠죠. 왜 이렇게 숙명태솔은 저는 세 가지를 꼽습니다. 잘 이미 검증된 시스템과 교수진과, 그리고 우리의 졸업생이 삼위일체가 돼서 만들어낸 결과라고 생각합니다. 우선 우리 처음 설립 당시부터 이제 메릴랜드 대학과 여러 가지로 커리큘럼 그 개발을 같이 시작을 했고요. 그 이후에 뉴욕 대학교, 유니버시티 펜실베니아 대학교, 유펜, 그리고 템플 대학교, 여러 학교에서 거의 지금 20년이 넘도록 저희 프로그램에 그 학점을 지속적으로 인정해 주고 있다라는 거죠. 그 고의 12학점까지. 그것만 해도 공적인, 국제적인 신뢰도가 이미 저희 프로그램에 잘 정착되어 있다는 것이고요. 저희는 사교육을 졸업하고 나서 사교육계에서 강의를 하거나 전문가로 활동하는 사람들을 키워내기도 하지만 2007년부터 동시에 공교육기관에 영어 교사 재교육기관으로도 아주 크게 자리하고 있습니다. 그래서 2007년부터 지금까지 서울 지역과 또 경기도 지역에 6개월 심화 연수를 통해서 수없이 많은 교사들을 재교육을 시켰고요. 그리고 인천, 강원도 또 여러 곳에서 또 뭐 단기적으로 지금 현직 그 교사들을 재교육을 하고 있습니다. 그래서 저희는 이제 공인된 사교육, 공교육을 이렇게 아우르는 그런 그 복합적인 교사교육 시스템을 운영해 오고 있고요. 그리고 두 번째는 저희 그 테솔 교수진이 저희는 데이 1부터 이제 테솔 설립 데이 1부터 외국인 교수들을 전부 이렇게 모셨습니다. 그러나 저희는 저희 교수님들이 박사학위 소지자고 이론가라고 자랑하지 않습니다. 전혀. 오히려 현장 경험이 많으시고 다양하시고 그리고 우리 영어 교사를 잘 키워낼 수 있는 그런 능력을 가진 최적의 교수진들을 잘 모시고 있음을 자랑합니다. 그게 그 결과적으로 우리 졸업생들의 그 행보에 다 연관이 되었고 여지껏 성공적으로 잘 이제 그 시스템이 역할을 했습니다. 그러나 동시에 국제적으로 잘 알려진 여러 영어 교육 전문가 또는 교수들 뭐 한 분도 빠지지 않고 저희 테솔의 전당인 그 인재관을 다녀가셨고요. 그만큼 여러 가지 강의를 많이 해주시고 또 지금 현재도 웨비나를 통해 아니면 온라인 특강을 통해 뭐 여러 교수들 아니면 지금 테솔 미국 본부의 그 회장님, 전 회장님 전부 모셔서 강의들을 듣고 있습니다. 이렇게 이론과 실제가 잘 갖춰진 시스템 속에서 현장 경험이 많은 우리 외국인 교수진들이 우리 미래 인재를 양성해 내고 있습니다. 그것이 우리의 또 자랑거리인 것이죠. 더 확실한 것은 그 사이 거의 몇만 명에 달하는 사교육, 공교육의 교육에서 종사하시는 수많은 인재를 배출했고 이분들이 바로 숙명 테솔 프로그램의 이제 산 증인들이 되시는 거죠. 그래서 현장에서 가르치시는 분, 또 국내외 또 학교에서 교수진을 하고 계시는 분들, 사업을 하고 계시는 분들, 영어 교육이 아닌 다른 분야에서 아주 출중한 역할을 하시는 분들이 꽤 많이 있습니다. 한마디로 숙명 테솔은 잘 검증된 시스템, 그리고 최적의 외국인 교수진, 그리고 우리의 유능한 그리고 영어 교육계나 그 외에서 아주 눈에 띄게 잘 그 활동을 하고 계시는 우리의 또 명문 교수진들이 아니면 명문 또 사업가들이 자리하고 있다라는 그 이유 때문입니다. 자, 여러분. 오늘 이 설명회에 오신 것이 바로 여러분 인생에서 또 다른 전환점이 될 것이라고 저는 확신합니다. 왜냐하면 우리 졸업생들이 보여준 길이니까요. 여러분, 우리 그 웹사이트의 슬로건이 Your future will never be the same입니다. 자, 여러분은 이미 한 발을 내딛었고, 자, 여러분의 미래를 위해서 우리 모두가 같이 노력할 것을 다짐합니다. 자, 여러분 모두 새 학기 또 우리 캠퍼스에서 새로운 그 커리어 패스를 만들어 나가기를 원합니다. 감사합니다.
Hello, and thank you for considering the SMU-TEOSL certificate course. I'm here to tell you about the SMU-TEOSL program, the different courses that we offer, as well as some exciting new things, such as the TOTE online teaching endorsement, as well as the idea of teaching language and content together, and our fabulous SMU-TEOSL event day, which is a culmination of all your efforts throughout the semester. Okay, so the question I have for you is, how do the best teachers create a social environment where the most effective language learning can happen? This is the kind of question that we try to answer in our program. Well, one of the things they do is they make better choices. So better choices about what to teach, better choices about how to teach, how to approach our students, the way to ask questions, etc. The reason they make better choices is because they have more knowledge and experience. Well, the good thing for you is that we are actually in the knowledge and experience business, and we're pretty good at it here at 숙명여자대학교. So how can you get the knowledge and experience necessary to make your future classroom a social environment where learning can happen? You've already taken the first step coming down to 숙명여자대학교. We've been the leading TESOL program in Korea for over 20 years now, and we're glad to have you join us today. So just very briefly, I'm going to tell you about the courses that we offer in the SMU-TEOSL program, from Methodology 1 and 2, which is the flagship course in our program. That's what to teach, how to teach it, to the Practicum, which is the practical application of what you learn in the methodology course. Second language acquisition is the science of how languages are acquired from the first language to the second, and so on. Intercultural communication is a little different than what you might expect. It's kind of what sets us apart from other programs. It's how we negotiate culture in the classroom cultures that we present to our students, our own identities as teachers and the identities of our students as learners. It's really an interesting, exciting class. Academic skills development is what we call a support course to support the TESOL trainees who come to us with their academic writing that they'll be doing in assignments in the ICC, Intercultural Communication course, and other courses throughout the semester. So a chance to work on your professional discourse in the TESOL community. So before we begin, I'd like to let you know about the TESOL Online Teaching Endorsement, or TOTE. Basically, this is a fully integrated endorsement that we're excited to bring to you that will qualify you to teach English online. So by choosing SMU-TEOSL, you've chosen the best TESOL certificate for teaching general student ages from middle school up to adults, and you've also chosen to get the TOTE endorsement that says to the world, I'm qualified to teach online. And we think in this era of COVID-19 that is exactly what our trainees are looking for. So by completing the courses and a few extra activities throughout this semester, you're going to be earning your TOTE endorsement with us. So some of our trainees, some of our applicants, some of our interested parties want to know what's the difference between SMU-TEOSL and YL-TESOL. Well, if you plan to teach older students from secondary school, say middle school, up to adults, then SMU-TEOSL is for you. If you're more interested in teaching primarily children, then YL or Young Learners TESOL would be the way to go. And if you're interested in very, very young children, then you might want to consider Play and Learn TESOL. Also, if you're unsure of the age you're going to teach, come on down to SMU-TEOSL because you're going to get some more universal concepts that don't just apply to children. And if you're possibly interested in pursuing a master's in TESOL or a related major after your TESOL certificate, SMU-TEOSL is for you. Of course, we have here at Sugmyeong Women's University, we have the MA TESOL program, but there are many other exciting ones out there if you're interested. So how long is the SMU-TEOSL program? It's about 18 weeks total, 12 hours a week, so it is intense, for about 216 hours give or take. So that's what you're committing yourself to. Right into our curriculum. As I mentioned earlier, the flagship course of SMU-TEOSL is the methodology course. Now this is the only class that you have twice a week. Okay, so actually that's how important it is, for one thing. And the way we divide it is you complete methodology 1 in the first half of the semester. So instead of a midterm, you get a methodology 1 final, and methodology 2 is the second half of the semester. So Meth 1 focuses on how do we teach the language systems and skills, how do we teach activities, how do we give instructions, how do we prepare students to listen, read, speak, and write. Okay. Methodology 2 is more about contexts. So we look at teaching content and language integrated learning, or CLIL. We look at teaching content-based instruction, which is quite similar to CLIL. We look at exam-based courses. So what if you're going to teach a Sunung prep course, for example? So looking at the unit level, beyond a lesson level planning. That's methodology. So we look at things like, what do we believe about teaching? What do good teachers do? Right? Do they approach their students in a certain way? Are they actually interested in their students' lives, or are they just kind of, or do good teachers just get interested in things like grammar? What do we know about teaching? So what is the research that informs what we do in the classroom? Okay, which brings us, speaking of research, brings us to second language acquisition, or SLA. Now, anyone who has studied language pedagogy or TESOL, you're going to know what SLA is. Okay, SLA is basically the science of how language is learned. So we look at the importance of things like interaction for second language acquisition. We look at input, so listening and reading, comprehensible input, as Stephen Krashen called it, right? The I+1, right? Which is just a little bit beyond the level that students know. Maybe that's the way that language is acquired. We look at output, like speaking and writing, and what the research says about how speaking and writing influences students' development. Very interesting stuff, and of course anyone who has ever been a teacher can tell you this is Bloom's taxonomy we're looking at here. So how do we make good questions and activities that challenge students' thinking and processing skills and leads to longer term learning? We look at things like, how are the sounds of English produced? Is that possibly as rule governed as the grammar that everybody likes to teach? I'm here to tell you there are pronunciation rules which you can learn, you can perfect, and you can teach. Can a teacher from Korea teach English pronunciation? I've just given you the answer, and that is absolutely. You can learn these rules and you can teach them to your students. How do we analyze student errors, and what does that tell us about a student's level? What does that tell us about what they're prepared for and what they're maybe not quite ready for? What you're looking at is a picture from what we call a picture retell task, where you ask a student to go through a series of pictures to elicit present tense narration, and then you can say, this student has mastered the copula, which is to be as the main verb. This student has not quite mastered third person singular, like walks, talks, goes, right? So tasks like this can really show us what our students know and what they're ready for. How do we motivate learners? What's the best kind of motivation for our learners? Very, very important. And my personal belief is that motivation is the number one factor in successful language learning. Not intelligence, not language learning ability, right? Not a great education. It's how motivated are you? And I'm so glad my TESOL students are amazing and motivated. All right, intercultural communication. This is the exciting cultural focus here. It's about identity, it's about culture, it's about context. But I'm here to tell you it's not just American culture, Korean culture, Western culture, Eastern culture. It's about the culture that you create in your classroom, right? What are your beliefs about what should happen in the classroom, for example? So where is culture? Yes, it's at the museum. Yes, it's in paintings and K-pop and K-dramas, but it's also in every classroom on earth. You've got a classroom culture that's been established. So we're going to ask questions about how that affects our students' language learning as well. Here's a traditional place to find culture, the National Museum of Korea. But you don't have to go there. You can go as far as your own classrooms. So we think about understanding culture in the education context and what that means for your classes and what understanding classroom culture is going to mean for the success of your students. So we negotiate those cultures in every single classroom on earth. It's so exciting you can't miss the ICC course, which brings us to the academic skills development course. As I mentioned, it's professional discourse, it's academic writing. When we say professional discourse, we mean you are entering our discourse community of English language teaching and learning. In other words, you're entering our TESOL community. So that means you need to be able to express yourself in writing in particular ways. Now, it's not incredibly intense. We just want you to succeed on the writing assignments that you'll get in your content courses, ICC, SLA methodology. There's an example of a former final essay. Okay, so we ask students to write paragraphs and essays, so be prepared for that. And of course, the practicum course. The practicum course is something that I love to teach. We call it the reflecticum because there's a lot of personal and peer reflection. So what happens is you teach short micro-teaching lessons to your peers. We don't have English learners we can bring into your classroom, particularly with COVID-19, but your peers can become novice or intermediate level learners for your classes. So you teach, then you reflect about it. Reflection can be done, it's often written, Google Docs, different format, or sometimes we have video reflection, which is kind of cool. You reflect on your own feedback, you reflect on your own teaching and you reflect on your peers' teaching. Okay, this is a self-reflection you're looking at here, a video reflection towards the end of the semester. After you reflect, after you get feedback from your instructors, that's when improvement happens, and it's a beautiful thing to witness, right? You get a little feedback, you have a little reflection, you notice things about your own teaching, and that gets improved over time. This is what improvement looks like, ladies and gentlemen. The smiles mean improvement. Okay, and one of the last things I'm going to tell you about today is the TOTE endorsement, which I mentioned briefly earlier, the TESOL online teaching endorsement. This is you're automatically enrolled in it when you sign up for SMU-TEOSL, and it says you can teach online. Okay? Each SMU graduate will receive the TOTE if you've fulfilled all the requirements. That means turn in all your assignments and you'll be okay. There's a number of them, and they include special lectures. This infographic is just sharing some details. SMU-TEOSL event day is a time for you to use your TOTE skills to your digital scaffolding and your digital resources to teach currently cultural element to other students of TESOL. It's exciting, and it changes all the time to get better and more interesting. Okay. Basically, the SMU-TEOSL event day is an opportunity for SMU students to apply concepts and techniques from all of your classes in a memorable teaching experience. It's really the culmination of what you've done up to that week, and it's usually around week 12 or 11 of 18, so just past the middle mark, just past midterms. Okay, these are some examples from previous event days. You can see there are different cultural focuses. You can focus on anything about culture that you're interested in. We had a Mexican culture presentation. We had a culture, someone spoke about Islam. And there's many different examples. I will share this PPT when I post this, and you can look at this really cool event day poster if you're interested. And by the way, if you sign up for SMU-TEOSL, we can and do offer a very popular blended course. When we say blended, that means it's both offline and online. So basically what happens if you choose this option, this is for, your full-time employees who are looking to do something on the side. This is for, working moms and dads, for example. Okay, so what happens is you have 3 hours online on Wednesday evening, and then in person all day on Saturday. Okay, so basically you're on Saturday you come in at 9 and you leave at 7. Okay, so it's a long day. The Wednesday evening, 7:30 to 10:30. Okay, that's the current schedule, and we think it's a great option. Currently, many of our students choose this, so if you're currently working, I'd highly recommend it. Okay, just be prepared for something that's pretty intense, but doable if you choose this one. Okay, and just to mention, we have special lectures and workshops all the time to improve your experience at SMU-TESOL. Whether you're a current student, a graduate, you can drop by and listen to these video lectures. They're really cool and interesting. A lot of practical ideas for your classrooms and future classrooms. Okay, so we really hope that you can come on by SMU-TEOSL to change your world with us and redefine your tomorrow. And we hope to see you in the classroom. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Luke Stundon, and I am the academic coordinator for the 숙명여자대학교 YL and PL programs. And I'm here today to tell you a little bit about both of these programs and why you should come here and study them. So the first question you might have is, why should I choose the YL-TESOL program? Maybe you're also looking at our SMU-TESOL program and thinking, what exactly is the difference? How can I choose the one that is best for me? Well, let's have a look over here. So you can see, if you plan to teach younger students, so pre-K to elementary school, then our PL and YL programs are going to be the ones that you want, because both of these are targeted more towards the lower age bracket, whereas SMU-TESOL is more for slightly older students. Then, how to decide between specifically YL and PL? If you want the best certificate for teaching young learners, then our YL is going to be the most comprehensive choice. However, if you feel like you don't have the full-time commitment to make on our YL program, maybe you only have about 12 weeks, then perhaps PL might be the choice for you. It's a shorter course, but you still get some level of qualification from it. So next, let's go through specifically what does each course entail. For our Young Learner TESOL program, One thing that we do like to advertise is we have a constantly evolving curriculum. We're always changing our materials, we're always updating our materials to make sure it's most suited for our current students. So if you've spoken to students in the past, the materials they have covered may not be exactly the same as the ones you get. Because of this, we're always trying to improve and push out the best possible product that we can. Also, our YL teaching program, it does train teachers in effective English language teaching methods, and we have an emphasis on what's called Content and Language Integrated Learning, or CLIL, or CLIL. It's a hard one to say, but to kind of break it down in super simple terms, CLIL is basically teaching English through other activities or through other topics. Most commonly, you see this in art and science. So here we can see some examples from our YL program of how we would integrate this CLIL learning into what we're teaching you. And if you can imagine teaching young learners, you might already be starting to realize using art, crafts, projects, this is going to be a great way to keep them engaged and a great way to keep them interested in learning English. And then for more content-heavy, vocab-heavy things, perhaps you could look into something like science, and you could also even look to doing some science experiments with students. So for our YL program, here are the 6 classes that we offer in YL. We have literacy development, classroom English, curriculum, language acquisition theory, or we just call it theory, child development and teaching, and finally, classroom management. So let's take a little closer look at each of these one by one so you can get a better picture as to what you will be learning. First up, we have child development, CDT. In this, you will learn all about how children actually learn, how their brains start to improve as they get older, and some of the different aspects that goes into child development and language learning. So you can see here a very famous man in the area of this is Vygotsky here, and I'm not going to bore you with the details right now, but you'll expect to learn about him and a lot of other important theorists like Piaget and stuff like that. Next, we have classroom management. This one is all about looking at behavior, looking at student motivation, talking about things like, how can I make rules in my classroom? What if I have a student who's misbehaving? How do I deal with this? What if I need to talk to parents about students? What should I say to them? How do I talk to them? All this kind of stuff goes into classroom management. And we're looking at things like, how can you create the best possible classroom environment? How can you allow your students to feel comfortable and feel motivated? Next, we have our theory class, language acquisition theory. And this one is focused mostly on listening and speaking. And basically, this is where you look at the history of ESL. You look back to people like Krashen, people like Swain. You look at these early kind of developments in ESL and what were they thinking about how we learn, how we acquire language. And the good thing about theory is all of this stuff is just that. These are theories, these are ideas, these are suggestions. So perhaps you're looking at a theory and in your experience, you completely disagree with it. That could be a very interesting thing to bring into the class where you can discuss this theory and discuss which side do you fall on. Do you agree with what was being said or do you disagree? Next, we have curriculum. And this one is about planning lessons. In this class, you get to look at a few different types of lesson plan. There's going to be 3 main lesson plans that we focus on. We have our TPR style lesson, which is more like a quick activity. We have our PPP lesson plan, which is very, very common lesson plan: presentation, practice, production, very simple 3-stage. And finally, something that can be a little bit more engaging, task-based learning, or TBL. Those are the 3 main types of lesson plan you are going to be looking at, but you also get to look at a lot more about curriculum, about planning lessons. It's a little bit more in-depth than that. There's elements about giving feedback to students. There's elements about correcting students' errors in this class as well. So look forward to that. Next, we've got literacy development, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. You look at how to improve students' reading skills and writing skills. In this class, you'll be doing read-alouds with storybooks, and you'll be looking at actually observing some students and teaching them how to do literacy-based activities, teaching them phonics, teaching them other kinds of, assessment tools, things like that. And we also have classroom English, which is a very practical, hands-on how to teach English in English. You can see from the picture here, here's an example of some things you're going to look at when you do classroom English. It's all about how to make a concept clear. In this class, you will be getting a little bit of experience with teaching an activity in front of your peers, getting some experience, and getting some feedback. Here's a quick overview of each of the different classes and how they all connect together, because in a lot of ways, all of these classes do link together in some form. So to quickly summarize, literacy, up at our top there, this is how to teach literacy, how to teach reading, writing, and you focus on activities, you focus on practice. Management, you're going to be looking at how can you manage the young learners? How can you control your classroom? And again, there will be a lot of looking at activities, there will be some elements of practice. Classroom English is how to teach. So management and classroom English, they're kind of 2 sides of the same coin. In CDT, child development, it's looking at the profile of what is a young learner? What are they like? How can we help them? So there you'll be planning instruction based on the observation of the young learners and tailoring classes to best suit their needs. In curriculum, it's all about planning for effective instruction. What exactly do you teach and when? How do you plan? What kind of lesson plan is going to be best for this class compared to that class? And then theory is kind of the rationale for everything. Why are these things we're looking at effective? Why are you doing it this way instead of this way? Right? It's all about justifying your teaching choices. Some other opportunities that we have available for our YL students is that we have a program called Language Doctor, where one of our professors teaches the Sukmyeong kindergarten students. And we have some spaces available for YL students to be the TAs in this Language Doctor class, where you get to go along to these real young learner environments and see the theories you're learning and put them into practice. So not only do you get to observe these classes, you also get some hands-on experience actually teaching the material too. Then let's move on to our PL, our Play and Learn TESOL. In this one, we have 4 main classes. We have Joyful Classroom, we've got Storytelling, we have Creative Teachers Workshop, and we have Play and Learn English. So, as we did previously, let's have a look at each of these one by one and figure out what does it all mean. First up, we have English for Learning. So this is all about teaching English in English. So here you're going to be looking at stuff like, what are some activities I can do for my students? How can I make the right choices for my students? How do I be a bit more of an effective teacher? Creative Teachers Workshop. This one is, again, exactly what it sounds like. This is the class where you're going to be getting hands-on experience actually making your classroom creations. You're going to be looking at how can you bring crafts into a class? What are some ways to make things engaging, to make things fun? You're going to look at stuff like making some puppets. You're going to look at how can I make some effective, colorful bulletin boards? What if I want to go on a nature walk with my students? If you can think of something creative, you're probably going to do it in Creative Teachers Workshop. Next, we've got storytelling, and this one is all about learning how to read. Now, I don't mean learning to read ABCs, I mean learning to read for young learners. How can you put emotion into your reading? How can you think of effective questions to ask them? Instead of picking up a book with a child and reading, "One day, John went to the market and he saw a big cow." You're going to practice actually engaging your voice, using your emotions, and really helping to sell this story. It's a very fun class. Everybody gets a chance to read, and everyone will get feedback on how to improve. And then Joyful Classroom. This is all about making a classroom happy. How can you as a teacher bring joy to the class? How can you manage your class? How can you control your students? As a teacher, if you look at these two pictures, which class do you want to be in? And I assume most teachers will say something like, I want to be in this class because, oops, sorry about that, because this doesn't seem so fun. And that's all about what Joyful Classroom is going to be. It's going to be, how can I make things exciting, fun, and just have a more relaxed time? But regardless of the program you choose, YL or PL, one thing is going to be the same between both of them. And that is, if you look at these pictures here, activities. You will do lots of activities. As you saw earlier, we do have a focus on this CLIL, and we do feel that when it comes to teaching young learners, having fun and having engagement is one of the best ways to promote language learning. So you will be looking at things from the perspective of the teacher and from the perspective of the student. Sometimes as educators, we don't really see the other side. You give your students a task and you don't realize this is actually more difficult than I thought it was, or this didn't sound very fun, but my students really loved it. So you'll get to actually play the role of the students. You will get to make your class posters. You will get to make your bulletin boards, do these crafts together, and you will learn how to learn by doing and by making. There's also some more opportunities to learn between both of the programs as well, regardless of PL or YL. First up, we have our summer and winter camps. And because of the COVID-19 situation, in the past, we did have these camps get cancelled. But recently, we did a kind of a pilot program for a fully online winter camp. And we're glad to say it worked out really well. We got great feedback from the students. We got great feedback from the parents. So now that we have this under our belt, we have the sufficient materials to do these camps in either an online or offline capacity. So what that means is there will be opportunities for you as 숙명여자대학교 students to possibly become the TAs for these summer and winter camps, where you get to work alongside the professors or alongside the other teachers and actually teach your material to the young learners. And this is a little different from the language doctor that I mentioned earlier, whereas language doctor tends to be a little bit more younger student focused, whereas the summer winter camp, you can get stuff like, you know, 4th graders up to 6th graders, stuff like that. We also have a bunch of special lectures on a wide variety of different topics. There's some on digital storytelling. There's some on online tools, things like that. So if you come and attend our 숙명여자TESOL, YL or PL, you'll get a chance to either see some special lectures in person, or you'll be able to access our resource center where we have video recordings of all of these special lectures too. And finally, we have our children's event. And as you can see from the pictures, we have some spooky Halloween themed pictures because that is our upcoming children's event. Every term we have an event day of some variety. Usually around this time we have it a Halloween theme, whereas next term it may not be a Halloween theme, but we might still have a theme in mind for it. Basically, this is a chance for your class to get together, plan your own activity, and then teach it to your peers or possibly children, depending on the COVID-19 situation. Either way, it's a lot of fun, regardless of who you're teaching. You have a lot of freedom involved, and this is a really good way to apply what you've learned and show your classmates and your peers just what kind of fun they can have when they come to your class. That's it for me. I look forward to seeing everybody watching this in the coming terms. See you then. Bye.
안녕하세요. 숙명테솔 2022년 봄학기 입학 관련 사항 안내드리겠습니다. 숙명테솔은 24년 이상의 역사를 가진 국내 최초의 테솔 자격증 과정교육기관으로 공교육 및 사교육기관에서 활동하는 2만 명 이상의 동문을 배출하여 국내 최대 동문 네트워크를 가지고 있습니다. 매 학기 워크숍, 세미나, 국제 테솔 컨퍼런스 참여의 기회가 주어지고 우수한 교수진과 동문 멘토링 프로그램 등을 통해 다양한 정보를 제공하고 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 약 30여 개의 해외 대학과 연계하여 SMU, YL-TESOL 졸업의 경우 해외 대학원 진학 시 학점 인정이 가능하고 숙명여자대학교 테솔 석사 과정 진학 시 한 학기 학점분이 인정됩니다. 숙명테솔은 국내 최대 학회 중 하나인 코테솔 국제학회를 14년 이상 숙명여대에서 유치하고 있습니다. 코테솔 컨퍼런스는 국내외 영어교육 기관과 교육 관련 인사들이 참가하는 행사로 숙명테솔 동문에게는 할인된 가격으로 참가할 수 있는 기회를 제공합니다. 숙명테솔은 국내외 영어 교육 전문가를 초청하여 영어 교육 관련 특강을 무료로 진행하고 있습니다. 또한 다양한 프랙티컴 실습 활동을 통해 미취학 아동 및 초등학생 대상 영어 수업 실습 경험 기회를 제공하고 있습니다. 봄학기에는 YL-TESOL 재학생이 기획하여 운영하는 어린이날 실습 행사를 운영하고 있고 가을 학기에는 외국인 교수진과 재학생이 함께 주관하는 할로윈 행사를 해마다 개최하고 있습니다. 특히 할로윈 행사는 용산구 지역 내 대규모 영어 학습 체험으로 2019년 행사에는 숙명테솔 동문과 일반인 약 300명 이상이 참가하여 성공적인 실습 행사가 진행되었습니다. SMU-TEOSL 재학생의 경우 SMU 교과목 중 문화 간 의사소통 방법 연구 수업 내용을 확대하여 그룹 프레젠테이션을 기획하고 다른 재학생들에게 강의 시연을 하는 행사를 매 학기 개최하고 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 또한 다양한 영어 교육 봉사활동의 기회를 제공하고 있습니다. 복지관이나 외부 기관에서의 티칭 활동, 어린이집 영어 수업 보조교사 참여, 용산구 공문 번역, 탈북민 영어 수업 등의 티칭 봉사 기회를 제공하고 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 영어 교육 분야에서 활발히 활동하는 동문들을 초청하여 수강생들과 교류할 수 있는 멘토링 프로그램을 운영하고 있습니다. 또한 수강생들의 취업 지원을 위해서 자폐어를 운영하고 있으며 본 행사에는 국내 유명 영어 교육 업체들이 참여하여 취업 창업 정보 등을 제공합니다. 저희 웹사이트에는 국내 상위 50개 영어 교육 기업이 숙명테솔 수강생의 이력서를 조회할 수 있는 공간과 여러 기업의 영어 강사 모집 관련 정보를 확인할 수 있는 잡보드 페이지를 운영하고 있습니다. 숙명테솔은 약 30개 해외 유수 대학교와 협력하여 SMU, YL, 테솔 자격증 취득 후 테솔 대학원 진학 시 최대 12학점의 연계가 가능합니다. 숙명테솔은 수강생이 영어 교육 관련 자료를 쉽게 접할 수 있도록 리소스 센터를 운영하고 있습니다. 수강생들은 영어 교육 전문 도서와 자료들을 학기 중에 항시 대화할 수 있습니다. 다음은 입학 관련 안내입니다. 숙명테솔은 국제 영어교사 자격증 SMU-TEOSL, 국제 어린이 영어교사 자격증 YL-TESOL, 어린이 놀이영어 전문가 자격증 PL-TESOL을 모집하고 있습니다. SMU-TEOSL은 모든 연령을 가르치는 영어교사 교육으로 약 5개월 과정이고, YL-TESOL은 만 6세에서 12세까지를 대상으로 가르치는 5개월의 영어교사 교육 과정입니다. 두 가지 프로그램 공통 지원 자격은 4년제 대학교 졸업 혹은 2022년 2월 졸업 예정자입니다. 입시 전형은 초중고 현직 교사, 기간제 교사, 영어 전담 교사를 대상으로 하는 특별전형 A, 공인 영어 성적 소지자, 영어권 국가 학석사 소지자 대상의 특별전형 B, 그리고 일반 전형이 있습니다. 특별전형 A는 면접 100%로 진행이 되고, 특별전형 B는 영어 성적, 학위 50%와 면접 50%로 진행되고 있습니다. 일반 전형은 쓰기시험 50%, 면접 50%로 진행이 되고 있습니다. 쓰기시험은 30분, 면접은 10분에서 15분 정도 소요되는 전형입니다. 면접은 3명의 응시생이 한 조가 되어 그룹별로 주어진 주제로 토론을 하는 방식입니다. 간단한 자기소개와 주어진 주제에 대한 개인의 의견 표현과 다른 응시생과의 의사소통 능력을 평가합니다. 쓰기시험은 서론, 보론, 결론 형식의 에세이이며 논리적인 글의 전개가 이루어졌는지와 영어 구사 능력을 평가합니다. 수업 시간은 오전반, 오후반, 주말반, 온오프 통합반, 온라인반이 있습니다. 오전반, 오후반은 대면 수업으로 주 3회 화, 수, 금요일에 진행이 되고, 주말반, 온오프 통합반은 주 2회로 수요일, 토요일에 진행이 됩니다. 주말반은 모두 대면 수업이고, 온오프 통합반은 수요일 저녁 온라인 수업, 토요일은 대면 수업이 진행됩니다. 온라인반은 SMU-TEOSL 과정에만 해당하며 수요일, 토요일 주 2회 수업이고 총 수업의 83%는 온라인으로 진행이 되고 17%는 대면 수업 진행으로 실습 시험 등의 경우 학교로 출석을 하셔야 합니다. 입학 시 장학 혜택은 숙명여대 졸업 동문은 수강료의 약 15% 감면, 초중고 현직 교사는 30% 감면 혜택이 있습니다. 이는 정교사에게만 해당되며 기간제 교사, 영어 회화 전문 강사는 제외되는 혜택입니다. 또한 졸업 시에는 성적 우수 학생에게 수여되는 성적 우수 장학금이 있습니다. 다음 PL-TESOL은 어린이 놀이 영어 전문가 자격증으로서 만 3세에서 7세까지를 대상으로 영어를 가르치는 약 3개월의 영어 교사 교육 과정입니다. 지원 자격은 70학점 이수한 재학생이나 졸업생이고 전문 학사 및 학사 학위에 모두 해당됩니다. 입시 전형은 면접 100%로 진행이 되며 면접은 10분에서 15분 정도 소요됩니다. 면접은 3명의 응시생이 한 조가 되어 간단한 자기소개와 면접관의 질문에 응답하는 방식으로 진행이 됩니다. PL-TESOL 시간표는 오전반과 주말반 두 가지가 있으며 오전반은 화금 주 2회, 주말반은 수요일, 토요일 주 2회로 진행이 되고 있습니다. 수강료 및 제출 서류 안내드립니다. 수강료는 SMU YL-TESOL은 385만원, PL-TESOL은 156만원이며 이는 입학금이 모두 포함된 금액입니다. 입시 관련 제출 서류는 SMU YL-TESOL은 입학 원서 한부, 3개월 이내 발급한 4년제 학사 영문 졸업 증명서, 졸업 예정자의 경우 영문 졸업 예정 증명서 한 부를 제출을 하셔야 합니다. 특별전형 A의 경우 재직 증명서 한 부를 추가로 제출을 하셔야 하고, 특별전형 B의 경우 유효한 공인 영어 점수 증명서 한 부, 혹은 3개월 이내 발급한 해외 학석사 성적표와 졸업 증명을 할 수 있는 디플로마를 제출하셔야 합니다. PL-TESOL은 입학 원서 한 부와 최종 영문 졸업 증명서 또는 70학점 이상 이수한 성적 증명서를 제출하셔야 합니다. 모든 서류는 우편으로 제출하셔야 합니다. 이번 전형 일정은 10월 11일부터 18일까지 원서 접수 기간이고 입학 시험은 10월 23일 대면으로 진행될 예정입니다. 합격자 발표는 11월 2일 예정이며 등록기간은 11월 2일부터 5일까지입니다. 입시 진행 과정은 숙명테솔 웹사이트에 접속하여 회원가입 후 인터넷 원서를 작성합니다. 이후 전형료를 납부하시고 각종 제출 서류를 우편으로 제출하시면 됩니다. 서류에서 합격된 후에는 추후 안내에 따라 면접이나 쓰기시험에 참여하시면 됩니다. 더 자세한 사항은 테솔 행정실의 유선이나 이메일로 문의해 주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.